Okay, hi everyone. I'm here with Laura Paaren, my friend, and she is a yoga instructor in Guelph. So Laura, tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. My name's Laura Paaren. I am a yoga instructor in Guelph. And pre-pandemic, I was teaching at a number of different studios in Guelph, in Elora, in Kitchener, and Waterloo. And currently, I'm teaching here
Your
in
house.
my house.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice. And how's
yeah.
that going?
It's going well. It's going well. There was really good response to online classes, especially at this time, because a lot of people just felt lost and very unsettled. So being able to do yoga and sort of quiet the mind a little and calm down is definitely helpful, especially this time.
Yeah, good. I'm glad that a lot of people that you found people were receptive to that because I think that is like, I mean, there's a lot of talk around, hopefully during this pandemic, people see what's important, etc. But I think just being able to take that time for yourself and focus on you and being present, and yoga brings that to the table, is so helpful
Mhm.
to just remember things are okay.
Yeah, I think that since things like shifted so hugely that everyone just was kind of, um, scrambling, feeling lost, and even people that had never done yoga before started coming out and trying some film classes, and it's been really great to see people just reaching out to something so good for them.
Awesome. That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to have lots of questions about what you just said, but I just want to back up a little bit. So you're a yoga instructor,
Yes.
you have your own business.
Yes.
Okay. And what's it called?
It's called Moonlight Yoga.
Let Yoga. And we'll have all the contact information for how people can get in touch with you. And then, so how did you get into yoga?
Oh yeah, I guess I could talk about that. I so the first time I ever did yoga, I think I was like 16 or 17, and I hated it
Yeah.
because
I hated it the first time I did it too. I was like, no, I cannot do
I
this.
was like, what's all this talk about? Like, this isn't fun. I was very I was active. I would like run and I would go to the gym, and not a huge like sports person, but definitely like did lots of different type of physical activity and was like, sure. Oh, I loved Pilates, and I thought Pilates and yoga were going to be really similar.
Oh,
So I was like, sure, like why not give this a go? And the class, I realized later now looking back on it that like it just wasn't the right kind of class for me. It was like a super slow, gentle class, which I love now. But at the time I was like, I want to be running. I want to be getting my heart rate up. I want to be sweating.
yes.
So yeah. So then I don't think I did yoga for a little while. I came back to it when I was 20-ish and fell in love with hot yoga,
Mhm.
which just like ticked all the boxes for me. It was challenging, got my heart rate up, it was sweaty, um, and just left me feeling amazing after and just wanting, like, craving to go back. So
Nice.
yeah, so that was a while ago, and I practiced for about 3 years and then went off to teacher training and have been teaching for about 7 years now. So
Okay, so did you start teaching in like teaching hot yoga?
mm-hmm.
And then
Yes.
now you teach.
I teach at one hot yoga studio in Elora. It's called Spark Yoga. And other than that, I teach normal room temperature classes, with a mix of like more active, creative, flowy classes, and then some more gentle and restorative classes to help really de-stress and wind down.
Okay. So for those who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about the different kinds of yoga and then what your style is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of different kinds of yoga. I don't even know how many different kinds there are.
Maybe like
But
the
there's,
common ones that you hear.
yeah, common ones and common words that you might hear. You might hear something called like a flow or a vinyasa flow. And that would be something where you're focused on really moving mostly the entire time, a little bit shorter holds. You're really moving with your breath. And what else?
What about like yin yoga?
Oh yeah, yin yoga, super nice and chill. That one is really slow, where you hold the postures for anywhere between 1 and 5 minutes. And that might sound scary to some people,
Yes.
but but the postures aren't necessarily physically challenging. They're more mentally challenging because of that challenge of having to hold and sit in stillness in a posture for a longer period of time.
Okay.
Then there's also like a hatha yoga, which would be more, you're still moving with your breath and you're still moving mindfully, but you typically don't flow as much from one posture to the other.
Okay. So more like strength holds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I find that if I've been teaching or practicing a lot of flows and then I go and I do a hatha class, I'm like, wow, this is hard, because maybe for a minute, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, you might be holding a posture that's more challenging.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what about like power yoga?
Power yoga, that would be like in your flow category. So you'd be doing lots of sun salutations, lots of like downward dog to plank, lower down, everything that you see on the internet. So
Got it. Yep.
yeah. And obviously with the name power attached to it, you know that it's going to be a good workout too. So
Okay.
yeah.
And then what's your style of yoga that you teach?
It's like a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Since I was mostly trained in hatha, my teaching style is definitely more alignment based. So I focus a lot on the body and telling you where all your parts should go. But I also do like to get creative with my sequencing, and usually I work towards a peak pose. So that means that I will intentionally sequence the class to safely stretch and strengthen the areas to get towards that peak pose, so that when I'm like, hey, do this balance on your hands, that your body is ready for it.
Okay. Good. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And how long are your classes?
Anywhere between the live classes that I teach are 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
And then I have a lot of pre-filmed classes that are all different lengths, so that whether you have 15 minutes or you have a full hour that you want to practice, then you can choose what works for you.
Oh, I like that. That's good. Yeah, because sometimes you have the time to dedicate, and other times you want to get in a practice. But
Yeah.
I know I'm guilty of this. I'm like, ooh, if it's not an hour, it's not enough. But we know that that's
Yeah.
crazy. Like, just do 20 minutes if you have 20 minutes.
Exactly. And that's like, even if people think, oh, I have 20 minutes or I have 30 minutes, and then that deters them from doing some sort of movement. So you're sitting on the couch for 20 minutes and you're like, well, I could have been moving.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to ascribe to the like, some is better than none.
Yeah, I think that's hard, especially for people that, like to push themselves and have to reach certain goals and want to reach certain goals, that it's hard to break down that mindset of having to do the full hour in order to get your workout.
Yes. And another thing I'm a big fan of lately is more is not necessarily better. Right?
Yeah.
Does it, if you want to improve your performance and your athleticism, it doesn't mean that you need to do 3 hours of yoga a day. That doesn't
Exactly.
mean that you're going to get better at yoga or be more athletic. Finding what works for you.
Yeah. I mean, if you end up doing a class that's maybe an hour and a half or something, and you're pushing the whole way through, you're going to be tired in that last half hour, and you're going to risk injury. You're going to get a little bit sloppy, and that's not good.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I like that, because that's something that I talk about a lot with my clients and athletes is if you're training for performance, then you need to work within your window that you have. So again, like if you're good for an hour, that last half hour, if you're fatigued, you're not making any gains. You're actually just losing,
Mm-hmm.
and potentially like increasing your risk of injury.
Yeah, and you can feel it. And it's interesting, sometimes I'll be teaching and I'll be watching, and you'll be seeing people that are, sprinting right at the gate, and it's just a practice of pacing yourself, and kind of choosing. You can pick and choose, like, if you're familiar with the class or you're familiar with the instructor, you have an idea of maybe where they're going to go, and you think, well, maybe I'm just going to back off a little bit here and then push a little bit more here because this is what I really want to work towards. So
Yeah,
kind
and
of a,
you just brought something else up, because I think about this is something I really like about yoga and practicing yoga, is just that there is a big focus on just accepting where you're at that day and what you can do. And I know I've been in classes where I went, blazing right out of the gates, and then I can't do the whole flow because I'm exhausted, and I'm just like,
mm-hmm.
the instructor's like, that's fine, that's okay, and you have that permission, and it's really nice to be in an environment where that is recognized as acceptable and not something negative or detrimental to your health or your wellness or what you're going to get out of that class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that definitely takes time to sort of learn and understand. Usually at the beginning of a class, we'll say, listen to your body. And some people are probably like, well, what does that mean? My body doesn't talk. How can I listen to it? And so it can be a struggle for sure when you're first starting out. If you don't know, what your capabilities are and where your limits are, then it's hard to pace and it's hard to listen to the body. But the more and more you do it, the more you just start to kind of, you start to feel the signs, and you're hopefully be able to start to listen a little better to the body when it says, maybe I shouldn't do this, whatever posture.
Yeah, which I think is great, because I know a lot of people that I work with or have worked with in the past, like, part of it is that they are disconnected from their body and they don't know what is good for them, what is not, what feels good, what doesn't feel good. They don't know how to do that, and they need help relearning how to do that. And so yoga is great, bringing in that mindfulness, that being in touch with your body, knowing your own limits, because we're all going to have different ones. So even if your yoga instructor is super bendy, it doesn't mean you have to be doing yoga.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that say that they can't come to yoga because they're not flexible, which is the number one thing that I hear, where people say, no, I can't come, I'm not flexible, I can't touch my toes. And I'm like, that's fine. Like, there's days where I can't touch my toes. I bend my knees and I can touch them, and that's fine. And it's sort of that starting to decrease that like competition level. I feel like we step into a room and we start to eye up, okay, who's in this room? Where do I land? And in a studio, people think that, you have to be at a certain level to start doing yoga, but that's certainly not the case. You start where you are, and then we're honestly the hardest on ourselves. So it's, there's a bit of ego. There's a lot of ego that comes into play when we talk about listening to your body and taking breaks when you need to.
Yeah, and I think that's so key that yoga builds that in, or you as an instructor build that in, because I think a lot of people end up being deterred from going to group fitness of any kind or group exercise of any kind because of that feeling inferior or not good enough, or that you can't do it. And so even just for anybody who is listening to this, knowing that like Laura is obviously very in tune with that kind of self-talk that we have, that a lot of us have, and building it in, because by integrating that positive self-talk and mindfulness into your movement and exercise, you would be amazed at the benefits that it has for your whole health, mental and physical. A lot of times we're separating them, right? Like, I want to work out hard, and that's really just kind of a disconnect. But yoga doesn't let you do that.
No. Yoga, it's just you. Like, there's no, there are thoughts, there are distractions, but when you're just standing there on your mat and you're doing some sort of posture, like it's just you, and you eventually can't avoid facing who you are. And I remember when I first started, there's studios that have mirrors, some studios don't have mirrors. I would stand in front of the mirror, and it's hot, so I'm like dressed accordingly to sweat, and I would just look at myself, and I would avoid looking at myself in the mirror. I'd be just staring at the floor or something. Even on days, I've been practicing for a couple of years, even days that I just like felt crappy about myself, I wouldn't want to look in the mirror. But then by the end of the class, I'd sort of like, I just forgotten all that stuff, and like it didn't matter what I felt about myself. I was just focused on what I was doing, and by the end of it, I'd usually feel a whole lot better than when I started.
Yeah.
And I think most people come for that physical
Yes.
workout and benefit at first. They want to get stronger, want to get more flexible, but then after a consistent practice, they definitely start to realize like how many more benefits there are.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. I love that. Can you talk to us about what are some of the benefits of doing a regular yoga practice?
Yeah. Well, other than the physical and the strength and the flexibility.
Whichever ones you want to, like, even for like if you're talking about physical and flexibility, like, can you elaborate on that and then go into the other?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of people that come into class and, they complain of back pain or shoulder pain. And that's a super common one. And definitely with like, depending on, your level of pain and your level of mobility, then I've heard lots of great stories of people just saying that strengthening and being able to move their spine in ways that they've maybe never done before, maybe they haven't done since they were a kid, that can really, really help just your entire life to not have to deal with that anymore.
Yeah, and actually, I'm going to just comment on that quickly because when you said the spine, so in our society, because we tend to sit a lot, we are also in compression all the time. So joints love compression and distraction. And what's awesome about yoga is there is a lot of specific movement built in to create a lot of length through the spine that you don't get unless you actively try to do.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's really hard. Yeah, definitely. Those are some of the postures that people avoid the most because A, it's hard, and we don't like to do things that are difficult, and we don't like to be put out of our comfort zone. So all those things come up when you're sort of opening up and starting to back bend. And
yes,
I remember too, actually, my first hot yoga class where I fell in love with it. I did this back bend called camel, and I had never done a back bend that deep before. And for most people, it's like the worst posture. And sometimes for me, it still is. But that first time I was like, this feels amazing. Like, it just was like, I didn't know that I could move that way. And it just, it was just a wonderful, wonderful feeling. So,
nice.
Other benefits of yoga. I actually have experienced better circulation through yoga. I used to get numb fingers and toes, especially in the winter. They would turn white and just, I couldn't feel them. And I'm convinced it is yoga that's helped with the circulation of my body. And
so then I have a question for you on that. How has your like stress and mental health been alongside that?
It's been awesome. I mean, I definitely
go together. Like, did you find the circulation, like if you think back, improved?
I guess, yeah. I mean, I feel like it all just kind of slowly happened, and it's not like something that you realize happens. You don't think, oh, this day, like, I have better circulation.
Yeah.
It's sort of after a while of reflecting, you're like, oh, I haven't had that in a long time, and I've been feeling good and happy, and little things don't bug me. I mean, sure, like I get stressed like everyone, but yeah.
But you notice, like I notice if I'm doing like regular any kind of mindful practice, whether it's yoga or meditation or just working on being present while I'm out walking my dog, that I feel so much better than when I'm not actively building those things into my life.
For sure.
But I think that's really cool that you noticed that, because like I could try to explain it from like a system perspective, but we don't need to. But anyway, for me, my like brain is geeking out. Like, ooh, that's super cool. I know what's going on. Like 2 things I'm thinking of, but that's like a lot of jargon, so we'll save that. However, that's not like from so a lot of I'm a physiotherapist, and I do focus on assessing and treating the nervous system. And so what Laura's saying, it makes a lot of sense in how the nervous system gets regulated. Also the thoracic mobility that she would have worked on with yoga all lends to better circulation for several different reasons. So love that.
Great.
Okay, keep going. So better circulation.
Better circulation, less stress.
Yeah.
Again, with breathing, with being put, especially hot yoga, being put in a stressful situation where you think it's really hot, I can't hardly well, you can breathe, but you just start to freak out, and you start to tell yourself all these stories of what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
But then after some time, and after, it's going to be different for everyone. You know, some people, maybe it take them a week to get used to it. Maybe it take other people months. Everyone's different. But you start to just be okay with the stress and the chaos going on around you. And you're like, okay, I'm here. I'm just going to breathe and everything will be fine. I'm just going to take it one breath at a time.
Yeah. Because you're going to accept it and get through it.
Yeah. I mean, your option is to, like, you know, nobody's forcing you to stay there. You can leave. You can lie on your mat if you need to do that, or you can push through it. And like, there's different options. No one's forcing you to do everything, like we said before.
So it's building into the mental and physical resiliency.
Yeah. And I feel like it's just really, like, going along with that, it really helps with your confidence. It really helps you just feel like, yeah, I can do that. I can do anything. If I can stay in that hot room, or if I can do this posture, it's like, it really builds your self-esteem and makes you just kind of walk a little taller, be a little prouder.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You touched a little bit, but like, if people have injuries, what do you recommend?
Yeah. I recommend, well, just looking into what style of class you're going to. If you have a shoulder injury, you might not want to go to some sort of powerful flow class. But if you do, that's not to say you can't. If you do, I would recommend talking to your teacher, asking what you can do to modify, and just being clear on communications. I think it's always important for students to disclose their injuries to me, so that, you know, I don't give them some sort of assist or some sort of adjustment that makes things worse. And yeah, just being very clear on what's happening in the body.
Yep. Good. And then what is your favorite thing about yoga?
There's too many things to list. So I've been thinking about it a little bit. One of my favorite things is that there's no end. Like, you think, okay, maybe I've gotten really good at one posture, but then you learn that there's another variation, or there's something else you can do. So there's really, really no end to the practice. And it's also so versatile. Like it's there for you whenever you need it, but it has whatever you need. If you're looking for that workout, if you're looking for something more gentle, and you really start tuning into what your body needs, then you can definitely get benefits out of any type of yoga. Another thing that I love is how it just sort of just like levels the playing field. Like, you think, oh, this person is an athlete, or this person does some sort of sport, they're going to be great at yoga. But then they go into the room and they're like, man, that was actually hard. And it doesn't matter who is in the room or who's on their mat. Like, it doesn't matter what you do for a living, or how much money you make, or, you know, what your background is. None of that matters, because once you're on your mat, everyone is at square one, and everyone's going to struggle. But then everyone will also have something that they've been able to achieve, and something that they've been working towards and pushing through. So it just kind of is a very humbling practice.
Oh, I like that. That's good. Nice. And what are your goals with yoga?
Well, with teaching yoga, my main goal is just to create a safe space for everyone. I have a lot of people in my life that thought they could never do yoga, or would never come to a studio, to my class or anyone else's classes, just thinking that it wasn't for them. So I do my best to create a safe space, and whether that's the language that I use in class, or just the options that I can offer people, I just want everyone to feel safe on their mat, because everybody deserves to feel good and to experience all those benefits that we talked about. So I just think that creating a safe space just allows more people to experience yoga.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's great, because there is a lot of there are a lot of spaces that aren't welcoming for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I think that's the future, which is awesome to hear that you're already doing that. And so how are you going to do that? What are you doing for the next year? What are your plans?
Oh, well, my plans are, I'm definitely going to continue with teaching online. I never was the type of person who liked to be on a camera or even to be in front of people talking. So I definitely never planned on teaching yoga. It just happened. I fell in love with it. I was like, I need to share this. So yeah, I'm going to keep filming and offer an online membership, a paid online membership at the beginning of September, which can be accessed through my website, which we can talk about later. And I'll definitely still have some shorter free classes for people that aren't able to pay for a membership. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's sort of where I'm putting a lot of my energy right now is teaching online and just being able to offer yoga to just so many more people.
Nice. Yeah, tell us about your website and how people can find you and how people can find you.
Yes. Well, you can find me by searching Moonlight Yoga Guelph, or if you would like to type in the little URL, I guess it's called. Yep. It's moonlightyoga.ca. Super easy. Okay. Moonlightyoga.ca. And on Instagram, you can find me Moonlight Yoga, but there's a dot between Moonlight and Yoga.
Okay. You'll be tagged in this, so
awesome. I appreciate it. Also, due to COVID and distancing and all that stuff, studios haven't been able to open up yet, but I am going to start leading some classes in the park in Guelph. So I don't have specific days for that yet, but you can catch me outside. I do teach, pointing back because Laura is that way for me, but I teach in the park in Elora as well. So all of that information is on my website, and
okay.
It's super fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good to know that you're going to be outside because the weather's nice. I might come. I'll look it up.
I hope so.
Okay. Anything else you want to share with us, Laura, about yoga or anything you want to say to people who are thinking about it?
I guess I just would say that, like me, if you try yoga once and you hate it, then you might not hate it. You just haven't found the right one for you. So I think it's important. Like I said, there's so many different kinds of yoga. There's so many different teachers. You just got to find something that you resonate with, somebody that you feel a connection with, somebody that you trust to lead you through things safely, and just give it a go. Don't cross it off the list of things to do if you try it once and don't like it.
That's awesome. That's great advice, Laura. And if for anyone who's considering, I'd highly recommend trying out your first class or any class with Laura.
Thanks.
Okay, Laura, thank you so much for your time and your expertise.
Thank you.
Bye.